Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'd. Some of the other levels of Khushoo' that Shaykh Salim Hilali Hafidhullah Ta'ala mentioned in his book Al-Khushoo', he mentioned that another level of Khushoo' is that a person will have leen al-qalb wal jild ma'in, that a person will have a softness in the heart and their body or their skin as well, equally at the same time, and that the Khushoo' is an act of ibadah, an act of worship, and that is one of the levels in which the believer hopefully attains in their Khushoo', in their humility and fearfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another level the Shaykh mentioned is sakina, is that the person who is fearing, who has this humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they should attain a type of comfort in the heart, and from the level of fear that they have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the humility they have before their Lord, and the fear of His punishment, and the awe of the Creator of the heavens and earth, the one who created you. Not the awe that you might have of things that are beautiful in the creation, but this is the awe of the Most High, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this fear should also produce from attaining that level of fear and humility should affect your heart so that you have a level of contentment as well. And it should strengthen your yaqeen wa quwwat al-thabat, that your certainty, in faith, in iman, and your thabat, your firmness on the firmness in the sunnah and firmness in your worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ascertained this way. This is one of the levels of Khushoo', which is sakina. This is in the heart. So it should increase your iman, it should increase your faith. And that another level is what the Shaykh, he referred to, he said al-ikhbat. And he said that this is another level of Khushoo', and this is where that the heart of the slave, it's the beginning of their getting rid of any doubtfulness in their heart with regards to their any uncertainty and any instability. This is the beginning stage of that. So that's another level of Khushoo', is that ikhbat is when it's the beginning level of having tu'ma'nina, to have a totally content heart, and that level of Khushoo', that level of humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is also the beginning of the beauty, the halawat al-iman, the beauty, the tasting of the beauty and the sweetness of faith. That is that level, al-ikhbat, the level of Khushoo that also the believers want to attain. But again, it's the beginning stage of that. So even the stronger level, as we're going to get to, which is the last level the Shaykh mentioned, he said that the last level is tu'ma'nina, and it is the ending of ikhbat with regards to Khushoo. It is where the heart is completely content and at rest, and a person's self, their nafs, their desires, their conscious is content. They have that contentness. They're not busy, but instead they're busy with the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and humility before their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that contentment in oneself, and that contentment in their heart, those are the important aspects of tu'ma'nina, that full content soul, the soul that is inclined towards good. And Allah the Almighty says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُمْ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تُطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the believers. He says, those who believe and they receive this contentness that we're talking about, this certainty and this full humility, the good soul, when they in their heart they receive this humility and this comfort in their heart when Allah is remembered, when they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they hear His verses, when they reflect on His signs in His creation. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, isn't in the remembrance of Allah, this contentness in the hearts? So that is that right there is showing us that level and illustrating that level of humility that we're striving to achieve. And this can only be achieved by trying to remove some of the things that distract us from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and filling our hearts with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of Allah the Almighty. And that is the last level of Khushoo that the Shaykh mentioned. And I ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and bless us. And anything I said that was correct was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything that I said that was incorrect was from myself and the shaitan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.